One of the most successful engine manufacturers in the world of Formula One, Renault, has decided to pull the plug on producing engines from 2026 onwards, even though they were well underway and the workers had protested the alleged move in Monza. Nevertheless, Alpine are now left on their own to look for an engine manufacturer, and it seems like they've already found one. But will this turn the fortunes around now that they have a new structure amid the return of Flavio Briatore and appointing Oliver Oakes as their team principal? And more importantly, how will this benefit Mercedes, the team that is likely to supply Alpine with engines from 2026 onwards? What has been rumoured for quite a while has finally turned into reality. Renault are backing off from the sport from 2026 onwards, when the new regulations were set to kick in. Renault have been playing the hot and cold game regarding this question, but it turned out that the programme was not paying off for the French company, as they've decided to pull the plug on the Viry-Châtillon-based squad before the 2026 regulations kick in. What is also very interesting is that work on the 2026 Renault power unit is already well underway, but this wasn't enough for the French engine manufacturer to remain in the sport, as they've decided to switch their focus on the Alpine Hypertech project, which will focus on their electric motor technology and road car projects. Alpine have released an official statement regarding this matter, as the team wrote, "Alpine's management confirms its project to transform the site into a centre of engineering and high-tech excellence by late 2024. Formula One activities at Viry, excluding the development of a new engine, will continue until the end of the 2025 season." To say that Renault will be a big loss to the Formula One world from today's point of view is not really a proper statement, because ever since the 2014 V6 engines were introduced, Renault has found it hard to keep up with teams like Mercedes, Ferrari and Honda. The latest development of events saw the French manufacturer drop to P9 in the Constructors' Championship in 2024 after a massive exodus of engineers happened over the first race in the season. And with bringing back Briatore and appointing Oliver Oakes as the team principal, Alpine have embarked on a new mission, which they haven't been very shy to admit could contain an option in which the squad would return into a customer team from 2026 onwards. This has been admitted by Flavio Briatore, who has been one of the most controversial figures in Renault right back in 2008 from the Crashgate scandal in Singapore. But after everything has been cleared out, it's been understood that his presence in Alpine has brought a lot of positive vibes around the team when it comes to revitalising the energy of the workers. Elaborating on the fact that Alpine could become a customer team as early as 2025, which is now impossible because Alpine have committed to Renault's engine in 2025, Briatore said, "The problem with Alpine was that there was no management. At one point they chose a few wrong managers. The list of the wrong ones was quite long, and we have no list about the good ones. The problem with the engine is the evidence. The stuff with the engine was decided already by the management of Renault, and for me, it's fine. Our chairman decided it was fine. This was already decided before I arrived in the team." Look at McLaren at other teams. McLaren is not doing everything. If you want to win, you need the best of everything that is possible. My job is really to make the team in condition to win. Everything is possible to make sure all the important parts are competitive. Obviously, this is where Mercedes comes in very handy, because we must remind you about one very important scenario. Mercedes lost a customer team in Aston Martin from 2026 onwards, as the Silverstone-based squad has committed to being exclusively supplied by Honda. This means that Mercedes have lost a team who would buy their engines and probably more parts from them, like the gearbox, which would have given them additional revenue that they could use to develop a championship-winning car. Toto Wolff has also reacted positively on the situation, in which they could see Alpine becoming a customer team. And while the current drivers lineup of the French squad does not allow Mercedes to train any young driver in the team like they did with Williams, it's obvious that you don't really need it at this point of their existence. They have two very young and fast drivers in Antonelli and Russell, and even if they were to drop one, it would be at the expense of Verstappen, which is a bet that any other team would take at any given day day of the week, twice on Sunday. But money-wise, this makes a lot of sense for Mercedes, and elaborating on this matter, Wolff said, "You know, I think Alpine's situation is a complicated one because we like the thought of, replacing Aston Martin with another team because of the sheer learning you're doing. I think we're set up as an organisation that the more power units, the better it is in terms of accelerating some of the developments or the reliability. So this is where it is. I think it didn't go beyond the point of exchanging opinions or having exploratory discussions. We are open-minded, that's what we have told them." This also opens up the door for Andretti because the American team has provided everything they could provide in order to enter the sport as an 11th team. And to see Renault withdrawing from the engine pool from 2026 onwards is as good news as you could possibly want to receive if you were Michael Andretti right now. While Domenicali is adamant that Renault leaving from 2026 onwards does not mean that the sport is moving in the wrong direction, team principals like Vasseur and Vowles are adamant that the more engines we have in the sport, the more data the teams will be able to gather, and therefore the better direction in which the sport will move into. But while Andretti has more or less prayed for times like this where he could negotiate a buyout with a team that looks like it's crumbling from the outside, Briatore was clear when it comes to the team being sold. The answer is no. There are plenty of potential to be explored from Alpine being a customer team, and they're more likely to try to see whether or not they have what it takes to become a competitor under these circumstances before they consider a buyout scenario. But it does go to show that Andretti is definitely being treated unfairly when you see what type of teams are being kept in the sport while other competitors are waiting on the wings on the outside with a lot more prepared projects. Just because Alpine would use the engines of another team and not Renault doesn't mean that they will be out of contention if they have the right manners and the right people being set in the right places. The perfect example for this is McLaren. The Woking-based squad has committed to using Mercedes engines in the long term, but only by hiring the right people in the right places. The team was able to understand the deficit they had to the top teams and now leading the Constructors' Championship by quite a solid margin compared to Red Bull and Ferrari. Briatore said that we should remain realistic when it comes to Alpine being competitive, and right now the situation is that until 2026 they won't be able to achieve anything, but that was before Renault decided to pull the plug on Alpine's F1 project. By having Mercedes engines behind their back, Alpine could very well strike towards greatness and podium finishes sooner rather than later, especially if we consider the fact that a brand new technical structure happened in the Enstone-based squad in the past couple of weeks. Oliver Oakes has a lot of hope that in the upcoming months his team will see the fortunes being turned around in their own favour, and sometimes difficult decisions need to be made in order to have the results that you're dreaming of. Elaborating on this situation, Oakes said, "I think to be fair, both of our drivers are good to work with, massively professional. There are never any concerns over them being motivated. Obviously they get frustrated, as I would. You don't want to be cruising around on Sunday with nothing to fight for. We know between now and the end of the year we have some performances coming. I think what surprised us a bit was after Spa and Zandvoort, you hope you can survive. This run of races was sort of what you had, but I think actually what you're seeing, we're a little bit out of sync." With all this in mind, do you think that Alpine have made the right move to switch to a customer team and use Mercedes engines in the foreseeable future? And more importantly, do you think that this opens up the door for Andretti to enter the team for a potential buyout? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.